they ignore it.
Oh, well, maybe this is from Spring Valley. Let's see. It doesn't. I mean, it's just we'll just thank them all. Not everybody does
I can
something.
take care of this.
So we don't want someone to feel, bad. So don't say anything. We're just curious. Oh, love the food. Always. Too bad Rick's not here to get all those cookies.
I know.
His cookies will go stale, Rick. If Rick doesn't show up, we're gonna gamble. We're gonna.
I got dibs on Rick's stuff.
I want the chocolate chip cookie. I'll take the chocolate. There's a chocolate cookies, a crumble, and a fudge. So half of us can be happy.
Yeah.
I just want some milk cookies. Can we open this for me? They have lotion. I like it. Thank you. Fun. This is the most we've ever had.
Yeah, it's so much. I stepped back and took a picture of it and sent it to Allison and said,
Are from Spring Valley, but she got them from Empower. So this goes with the mug.
Okay. Oh, but they had Empower do it.
They had Empower
so it was
do it.
together. Okay. I don't have room to work. Spring Valley had Empower do it. That's how it goes together. Yeah, there we go.
That's from the middle school because I was their guest this time.
Generally kind of gets kind of quiet and people say like, well, it's time, let's get this show on the road. So, let's get the show on the road. Welcome to the regular board meeting for the month of January for the Woodway Board. We have a quorum tonight. Everybody's here. Mr. Paulus, unfortunately, since y'all know this is our fourth Tuesday of the month, he is used to us meeting on the third Tuesday. He had already booked an engagement. He might join us a bit. We'll see. So on behalf of the board, I want to welcome everybody that's here, and along with anybody that's watching us online. We very much appreciate your time in being here, your interest in the school district. If you hadn't already done that, put your phone on silent. Y'all know how that works. Some opening comments, and then we'll get right into the best part of the meeting, recognition. The board's job, folks, is not to manage the school district. The superintendent and staff do that. The board listens to reports from the superintendent and staff. We adopt tax rates, budgets, policies, etc. So we don't make management decisions, just so everybody keeps that in mind. What we also do, though, is adopt a mission statement, and one of the things we've started doing is reminding everybody of what that is at the start of our meetings. And with that said, Midway ISD will maximize individual potential within a learner-centered and supportive environment, prepare students to excel in a global society. Sort of sets the tone, and we then get to go to maybe the second best part of the meeting, Pledge of Allegiance. Principal Jay Fisher from Midway Middle School with a group of students.
Yes, sir. Thank you, board. We do have a group of students here tonight. This is our students from our AVID class, along with Cameron Tippie, our AVID teacher. And I'm going to introduce our students real quick. We have Bianca Campbell, Lacey Newland, Dylan Crow, Jason Kirks, Adrian Zamora, Austin Burke, London Crosby, Madeline Ortiz, and Cheyenne Shiraz. All right, I think we're ready for our pledges. If you will please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, board.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And on recognition, let me just tell everybody that's here for recognition but doesn't plan to stay for the meeting, y'all out for being courteous and polite, we'll just wait. We'll take a pause between recognition and the rest of the agenda items and give the folks that need to leave an opportunity to do that. And before we get into the formal recognition that's on our agenda item, I want to take the opportunity to recognize some folks that are here, and we're delighted they're here. We're going to start with Emily Parks, who is our new communications director. Yeah, you got to stand up. And it will start as of what date, Dr. Allen?
Monday or Tuesday, we're still working out details, but early next week.
Outstanding. Well, a warm welcome. And then I just want to recognize folks for being here, and Dr. Pena is going to introduce them by name later on. And it's our folks that are our campus safety specialists. Gentlemen, why don't y'all all stand up here so we can just see who you are. And then Dr. Pena, appreciate y'all being here. I think it's very appropriate that they're here tonight in light of not one, but two agenda items we've got later on regarding potential police department. So, with that, Mr. Alford is going to assist with our recognition. It is on the agenda, and I'll turn it back over to you, Chris.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I will get us started this evening. As you know, we have awareness days that we like to recognize every month. Most of these are legislatively required. So this month is National Mentoring Month. If you'd like to volunteer to be a mentor in our schools, we have a great volunteer process. We'd love for you to join us, but we appreciate that. We have mentors on staff, which is not typical for public schools. It's another one of those ways in which we make sure we do provide for the safety of our students by taking care of them, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, so that's great. And then it's National School Board Recognition Month, which I may have a few things to say about in just a moment. January 6th is Sam Rayburn Day. You're asking, who is Sam Rayburn? The longest serving Speaker of the House in the history of the state of Texas. He served from 1913 to 1961. If you take just a moment to think about all the events that occurred during that time period, you can only imagine how tumultuous that tenure might have been. And then January 22nd through 26th is Holocaust Remembrance Week. I know that we do a good job of covering this in our social studies classes, but also folding in literature that deals with this very difficult topic in other of our courses. And so it's very important that we remember that. It is also Texas School Board Recognition Month. So this is the part where we get to talk about you guys and you feel awkward for just a few minutes, but it's okay. So I'm going to do that now. We're going to start recognitions off by recognizing our very own school board. In Texas, the first month of the year is designated as School Board Recognition Month. And every January, we like to take time to recognize and honor the men and women who serve on our local school board. The 7 members of Midway ISD's school board spend numerous volunteer hours working to provide the students and staff of Midway with the tools they need to be successful. Collectively, these 7 elected leaders have over 70 years of service on the school board and are parents to more than 27 Midway students or alumni. We are very grateful for their service to our public schools and to each of us individually. Board members, as I call your name, please stand where you are so we can recognize you. Place 1, Mr. Pete Russick. Go ahead. Mr. Russick has been a board member since 1996, serving as board president since 2004. Mr. Russick has 5 Midway graduates. You don't get a discount.
And they all went to Midway from K through
Lifers.
graduation, all lifers.
Yes, sir. Miss Susan Vick. Miss Vick is our board vice president and is Midway's first female vice president. She joined the board in 2011 and is the mother of 4 Midway alumni. Mr. Colin Witt, place 3. Mr. Witt joined the board in 2021. Mr. Witt has 2 Midway graduates, the most recent graduate in 2023, and 1 currently enrolled Midway student. Thank you for your service. Ms. Pam Watts. Ms. Watts is our board secretary and in place 5. Ms. Watts joined the board in 2016. She is the current board secretary, and she has 4 Midway graduates, all of whom attended Midway since they were in kindergarten, so not unlike Mr. Russick, lifers. In place 4 is Mr. Alford, who's already standing. Mr. Alford joined the board in 2018 and has 4 Midway graduates. Thank you for your service. Mr. Green is in place 6. Mr. Green, Midway High School class of 2000, joined the school board in 2022. He has 3 children currently attending Midway schools. And then not here, but we're going to talk about him anyway, so y'all tell him we said nice things about him behind his back, is Mr. Vic Tullis. He's in place 7. And Mr. Tullis joined the board in 2013. He has 4 children, 2 alumni, and 2 current Midway High School students. I'd like to ask you to join me in thanking them one more time. I know I don't need to belabor the point, but being a public school servant, as a volunteer, as a board member, is no easy task. The decisions you make every day affect other people's children and other people's money. And if you want to get people excited, talk about either one of those two, much less both of them. And they do it with dignity and grace and with a level of character that is not normally seen in many school boards in the state of Texas anymore. And y'all, I've worked in a few places, and I'm telling you, we have an outstanding, outstanding board. They are exemplary in the state of Texas, not just for the service, but in the way in which they've seen this district through years of growth in an environment that has been in a constant sense of change. But what has not changed is what has been described by some as the Midway spirit, a feeling of intense neighborliness, where we're going to treat each other well, regardless of the circumstances around us. And that starts with our school board, who has the highest expectation of the employees of this district to make sure that we do the very best for the students we serve. And so, thank you very much. With that, we're going to talk about some great kids. Man, I'm so fired up about this. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Watts.
I wanted to know who we thank for the beautiful art creations in front of us here.
Oh, high school. That's our ag science department. Sean Raycheck's is the ag med class.
I don't know if y'all can see behind the dais, but it's like Christmas morning for board members back here. So I wanted to thank all our campuses and our principals and our programs for incredible generosity. There wasn't a card with this. That's a bun cake. I don't know. Do we have a 2? From ag students?
Ag students at the middle school.
Thank you.
There you go.
Avid. Oh, Avid. Okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
the kids
Thank,
over here.
okay,
Yes.
thank you.
All
We
right.
just want to make
Even
sure we
thank
thank
them
everybody
when they were here.
appropriately.
Yeah. Thank
They
you.
do it because they love you, and it's well earned. So,
We can't go home and eat all this at once. That would be, yeah.
We'll try.
all right.
Just to be clear, I'm gonna go home and do this to my wife.
Absolutely, right there. Hey, she deserves appreciation too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you all
Yes,
so much.
thank you all very much.
Thank y'all very much.
Very
Now we're going to hear
touched.
from Mr. Umhofer, our Director of Fine Arts.
Are you freezing? I'm freezing. I'm going to text Carolyn.
Thank you very much. It is my honor, excuse me, I get to come up to our school board once a year and talk about our all-state students and how wonderful they are. And not very often do I get to talk about all-state band students. And we are incredibly excited to have 2 Midway High School all-state band students who earned the top honors for music students as members of the 2024 TMEA, which is the Texas Music Educators Association All-State Band. Congratulations to French horn player Jacob Wiley. Come on up. And contrabassoon player Emmanuel Maxey. Many of you probably can remember what a French horn looks like with 36 feet of tubing all stuck in a space, but a contrabassoon is an entirely different world. It is a big giant instrument that it weighs about, what, 250 pounds? And we're very thrilled. These students are among the top 2.6% of over 70,000 students from across the state who began the TMEA All-State audition process in their regions, which is pretty outstanding. In addition to that, Mr. Wiley earned first chair French horn in the entire state of Texas.
Oh.
Yeah. We know that's a big deal. One of my jobs with TMEA, I am privileged enough to be the stage manager for these big concerts, and I look forward to setting a chair just for you. And I'll make sure it's not a wobbly chair. And giving you a hard time on stage. I get a giant thrill out of looking at the program and seeing Midway High School next to our students, and I know you do too. This is the first time in 12 years or so that we've had high school band students, so let's give them another round of applause. Their director, Pam Hyatt, is here tonight, and the Wileys are here, and Amanda, you got parents here? Oh, well, that's all fine, too. So, thank you.
Can we get Miss Hyatt up here?
Yeah. let's
Yeah,
go.
you'll get a picture up here.
Emmanuel, I went to state on the bassoon, so.
Yeah,
I was in state band.
longer than 12 years ago?
Yeah, a little longer than that. Well done, well done.
Thank you guys very much. Next up, we've got Dr. Becky Odejima, and then she's going to introduce to us the 2024 TAS Outstanding Texas Educator.
Thank you so much. I have the honor of recognizing one of our teachers this evening, Midway High School chemistry teacher Crystal Moose. She was selected from a statewide pool of educators and has been named the Texas Academy of Sciences 2024 Outstanding Texas Educator.
Woo.
You may remember that Ms. Moose has been here earlier because she was also named the state finalist last year representing Texas in the 2023 Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. She has also been honored here as a National Board Certified Teacher. As the TAS Outstanding Texas Educator, Ms. Moose is invited to speak at the 2024 Texas Academy of Sciences annual meeting in March, where she'll have the opportunity to share her passion for science education with fellow educators across the state. So we are so grateful for Ms. Moose and the way that she pours into her students and positively impacts the Midway community. We're excited to have her experience this opportunity and give her the opportunity to positively influence educators statewide. So thank you and congratulations.
And she even has one of her children here in support of her. All right, that pause I promised. If you were here for recognition and you got better things to do this evening and need to leave, want to leave, this is your opportunity. And with that, then, we've got one information item, quarterly investment report, and unless a board member has a question on that, we'll move into the presentation discussion items, the first one of which is our monthly finance report. Wesley.
Good evening, members of the board. We can take a look at our financial report for the month ending December 31st. On the heels of our audit report that was presented last month, we do have our audited financial numbers as of the end of our fiscal year, August 31. So it's a good opportunity to look at our fund balance and kind of where we stand as a district. So we can go ahead and go to page 12, I believe, of your financial report. And we'll look at our fund balance for two of our funds here, our general fund and child nutrition fund. Here on slide 12, we look at our general fund balance. Our fund balance is essentially just the difference between our assets and liabilities. Another way to look at it is maybe our savings account kind of for the district. Our total general fund fund balance, audited fund balance at the end of August 31 is $23,910,000. You can see that the orange bar chart graph there, the far number on the right. That's our total general fund balance. Our unassigned general fund balance is $23.3 million. And the difference between the total fund balance in the general fund and the unassigned are some of those committed fund balances that we established at the end of August for long-term maintenance of vehicles and technology. You can see in that top graph just the change over time in our total general fund balance there. From 2022 to 2023, it went down $200,000 as was presented last month. But in the unassigned portion there, we can, the blue bar chart below that, you can see as a percentage, our unassigned general fund balance as a percentage of the next year's adopted budget. And so our established policy is to maintain that amount at 25%, so that our unassigned fund balance will be 25% or higher of the next year's adopted budget. You can see at the end of fiscal year 23, we're at 26.71%. That has fallen the last several years, and some of that is, we have had a deficit finish to the last year or so, but also as our adopted budget goes higher each year, that percentage is going to fall. And so this year, of course, with the Vader election, we adopted a little bit of higher percentage increase in our budget, and so that's why even though our fund balance only dropped $200,000, that percentage went from 29 to 26.71%. And so that leaves us about $1.5 million over the floor of 25%. The next slide is our child nutrition fund balance. So there you can see in the blue, we're at 1.5 million at the end of fiscal year 23. Our recommended fund balance from TDA is 2 to 3 months of operating expenses. So recommended fund balance is $846,000. The max at 3 months is 1.2 million. So we're actually above that max. And so we're looking at ways. You'll actually see in our consent agenda budget amendment 24-10 for some extra, for $300,000 worth of kitchen equipment, to update a lot of our equipment in the kitchens of the campuses across the district. So we're identifying ways to spend down that fund balance. So a little disparity there in our general fund balance and child nutrition, kind of going in opposite directions a little bit there. And so also additionally, we do have another budget amendment, 24-9, the consent for $50,000. We do have 2 additional students we didn't budget for that we are sending to the Waco Regional Day School for the Deaf. And so we're going to fund that with our increased, our special ed WADA is increased, so we can increase that budgeted revenue amount to help pay for that expense. Any questions?
All right, no questions. Thank you, Wesley. And we've got an unusual agenda item for us. City of Woodway asked to come and talk to the board about a traffic lane redesign study that they had done on part of Estates Drive, and we've got Solomon Thomas is here to talk to the board on this, and Dr. Oubre.
I'm Sean Oubre, city manager.
Dr. Oubre, the city manager for the city of Woodway, saw that you are retiring in a couple of months also.
Yes, sir, a couple of months.
Appreciate your service over there.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your service, Mr. President. And thank you for having us. And I just have to add, I was talking with the mayor, what a wonderful student body. And it's y'all that add to the quality of life that makes Woodway such a great and unique place to live, and we appreciate that. As I said, I'm the city manager. We have Mayor Quarzall here, Councilwoman Story Cook, the Assistant City Manager, Adam Nilet. As you introduced, Solomon Thomas, who is with MRB Engineering, and he is the engineer of record doing the redesign drawings and recommendations to the council. And we also have Mr. Larry Calclaser here, who's the traffic engineer that the city hired to do the report itself. But thank you, trustees, for having us tonight. And as I finish my opening comments, Larry's here and Solomon's here to follow up with any questions. A little bit of a presentation for y'all on what the end result is that the council is desiring to do. But I want to stress that the redesign of Estates Drive is not going to impact or affect the property around the school itself. So as you see on the aerial above you, from Midway Drive to Highway 84 will not change. The traffic lanes, the left turn lanes will not change during any of this redesign or the recommendations that Solomon will do or those that council approved. A little bit of history on how the city council arrived at this. Our records indicate between 2013 and 2015, councils considered sidewalks to help pedestrian traffic in and along Estates Drive. They were thinking outside the curve, and they hired an engineering firm to study that, and the cost would have been, in 2015 numbers, $400,000, and it would have required the acquisition of private property up to 20 or 30 feet of people's property, and relocate all utilities to encompass that work. And as you can see, it would be a big undertaking, and we all realize that the giving or the selling or the acquiring of public property is a difficult process. This would be reducing a lot of people's driveway and their access to their homes. So the city continued to pursue the idea of a bike walk lane, and we currently have bike lanes in the city on the streets of Pogue, Estates, going down to the lakes, and Santa Fe itself. In this year's budget cycle, they also included Fairway and improving the bike lanes going down to the lake too. So it's a three component project that Solomon's going to talk to you about. They continued to talk about it through the years, and it wasn't until a visit to other cities that we realized that instead of looking outside the curves, to look at inside the curve, because that would allow you to address concerns and requests from citizens, but not have to acquire property and relocate the utilities. And so that's what presents itself today. Council went through a budget workshop process, funded this project and this budget, hired a traffic study engineer that Larry will talk about to make sure that the amount of traffic on Estates will not cause problems or backups along the intersection areas. Currently, MRB is at 60% design, and I will turn it over to them, or if you have any questions for me right now, I'll be glad to answer anything. But do y'all prefer Solomon first, or Solomon's the one that started with the aerial doing the drawings?
Yeah.
That's
For
fine.
your pleasure? Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Dr. Woodway, for that introduction. So Dr. Woodway went over a great summary of the project. I'll go into a little more detail, but what we're scope of the project and the reason for the project is to provide connectivity for students, families, as they come from the residential areas to Woodway Elementary School. So this project will connect bike lanes from Estates Drive at Bosque and then all the way down to Midway. So, and what we're talking about, as he mentioned, is actually providing a designated protected space for bikes and pedestrians to traverse within the road section along what would be, if you're going south, along the right side of the roadway. And so this actually will connect to a future project that Woodway has gotten for TxDOT funding for sidewalks along Estates, connecting Midway down to US 84. So it would provide connectivity basically from the lake to US 84 for pedestrians. And the basic gist of it is that you take a existing larger section, provide one lane traffic in each direction with two-way left turn lanes, and then a two-way bike and pedestrian path within the footprint of the existing roadway, as he mentioned. And so you can see in relation on your slide up there to the school, those lane reductions would only happen north of Midway Drive. Estrates Drive would still have a continuous two-way left turn lane from Midway to US 84, and then in the south direction, 2 through lanes. And from US 84, basically to Midway Drive, you would have 2 lanes in the northbound direction. However, as you come into a section that would only have 1 lane on the other side, the turn onto Midway would be a right turn only, would become a right turn only. And so, this, the study has shown that, not anticipating any impacts to level of service or minor impacts to level of service. And then if you want to go to the more zoomed in view, on this slide you can see kind of the lane configuration with the crosswalks. And so right there at Midway Drive, what we're planning to do in order to bring folks from the roadway section to that crosswalk across Midway Drive that connects to Woodway is actually put in basically a curb ramp, a concrete sidewalk ramp section, which currently there is not one to receive it on the other side, but there's a project that's coming. So, open up to questions, or if y'all want to hear Larry talk a little bit about the traffic study, happy to turn it over to him.
If I remember what I read correctly, you're not putting a crosswalk sign there at the crosswalk, or are we going to do any type of button where you can push and you can get the traffic will stop so people can cross the road if students need to go to the other side or anything?
Well, yes, so in this project, and then I believe in the future TxDOT project, there is not money that's been allocated to do a flashing beacon of any kind or any kind of pedestrian alert for vehicles. To my knowledge, I don't know if you know if any kind of study's been or warrant's been done for that. Not to my knowledge.
So the city of Woodway has not pursued that? That's not something y'all discussed or talked to TxDOT about in this plan?
We discussed that internally at the staff level about, well, it was last school year. A vehicle lost its trailer and struck that very sign, and that's why we went back with the flashing. But we talked about the push button. We were really worried about people outside the school zone hours using it, and then traffic having a habit of not paying attention, and that maybe being a child crossing the street and thinking that people are just going to stop. And so for safety reasons, we didn't do it. We would prefer, since it's such a long walk across, there's really no place to go if the cars aren't stopping, because people just get focused on point A to point B, and if it's not school sessions, they really don't pay attention to pedestrian traffic there.
Okay. And then also you did do a study of how far the cars back up when they're turning into Woodway. I know you started it after Midway Drive, so I'm assuming we did a study and you could see how far cars backed up.
I've personally gone and watched those stacking or queuing before school, after school, and most recently, I'm not good with my directions. I think Solomon referred to it as north of Midway Drive. Mm-hmm. I saw the queuing up and the stacking going north on the Estates, waiting to do the pickup. Mm-hmm. And it slowly crept up to Midway, and then about 7 minutes before release time, I'm guessing about 7, then one car went on the other side of Midway, then 2, and at the most there was 5.
Okay.
But within 5 minutes of release, that was all gone.
Okay.
But one thing I did notice is the Midway Drive at the stop sign, which would be going west, could easily be a queue point, and nobody uses it. So if people could be changing in their habits of behavior, and instead of queuing north of Midway, just start queuing on Midway and then turn a right on the Midway when you can queue up, so much simpler and to me safer and lose the risk of rear-end accidents.
Yeah. My concern was for the other traffic that was going to be coming by at that time, that they might get bottlenecked behind cars waiting to queue for the school. So I'm glad
But
that was just.
I
in
don't
there.
think Larry's engagement went past Midway, but you can answer that. If y'all don't see that well, we have handouts if y'all want to look at them in front of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
We
I
can
mean,
distribute.
yeah, I was just concerned about other vehicles. No, I didn't want people to get bottled up and get mad at the school.
Yeah,
You know,
the
the
most
parents
I
all waiting.
counted, and it never crossed, I don't know the property owners
Okay.
in question that faces Midway and the driveways onto estates.
Mhm.
It never crossed or blocked his drive.
Okay. Well, that's good.
And I just assume I was on there on normal days.
Okay.
What, can you talk a little bit about the timing on the sidewalk and the sidewalk extension? Because that, I know, I read through the study and it did say that was one of the recommendations was to add that sidewalk. So
Yes.
do we know when that's expected to happen?
Thank you for asking. We're dealing with TxDOT.
Sure, yeah.
So it is a long process. In fact, the idea of the sidewalk started 2 years ago with a discussion with Solomon and his team. And then it was about 18 months of an application process. We got awarded 90 days ago-ish. And we found out they're probably not going to let the money until mid-2025. And that's a fast track, because we were looking at 2026.
And so obviously extending that would, you know, that's going to be on our side of the street, right? The Woodway Elementary side.
Right, it will be in the easement, I would say, and we talked to the previous superintendent, Dr. Allen's been very supportive of this, and it's going to go two ways. It's going to go down Midway, past the other main entrance, and I'm not familiar with that entrance, what the name of that entrance is, but it's going to go past that entrance on Midway, down to,
Right.
you know the streets on? To that first street on the left is where it's going to stop, because there's a big oak tree there. That's kind of the stopping point. And then we're going to come down Estates, past the park, past y'all's entrances, all the way up past Dutch Brothers.
Okay.
And that's priced at about $825,000 from TxDOT and $225,000 from the city.
What, and I know that obviously this is a city project, and we appreciate you coming and sharing with us. Obviously, we've heard bits and pieces to various degrees from parents with various sorts of concerns. I know you guys have forums for them to discuss that with the city as well, but what sort of engagement have you had with the school district outside of this, about this particular project? Just as, kind of as a heads up so that we can maybe head off some of those questions. Like, what has that conversation been like? Kind of an open-ended question.
This is a me question, not Solomon.
Right.
Well, when we first started the sidewalk application, we visited with the former superintendent. And then through our meeting and greet process with Dr. Allen, we informed him of the sidewalk and the preliminary idea we had about estates. But nothing formal, looking at drawings, because council hadn't approved it at that time. And here's where that, is there anything to add to that, Dr. Allen?
No, sir.
I guess that's just kind of wanting to make sure that we're good partners to you guys in this, because I know
Oh, if that's
we drive a lot of the traffic coming through there a couple of times a day.
Yeah, if that's the question, I feel, as well as council feels, there's a very strong relationship between the city and the school district, and Dr. Allen reaffirmed that upon his arrival, and even offered services and resources moving forward.
Other questions before we hear?
I don't know if this is for Larry or not, because it sounded like, I don't know if your study went past Midway. My only question, and I don't mean to re-ask kind of the same question Susan did, but the reason this is top of mind is because I come from the lake to drop off at Woodway Elementary in the morning, and especially when it was raining the last couple of mornings, there was a lot more cars than normal, because, you know, the normal kids crossing the street, you know, at Crossroads Church, you know, they're not. Anyway, the point is, there were a handful of cars past Midway on Estates Drive. My concern was that if those are backed up and it's just a single lane and there's really not a way to go around it unless you go into the turn lane, which I don't know if, Khalil would like that very much, but, that's my concern is that, yeah, it's only a couple of cars, but I mean, if you're getting cars passing a lot on the left. I mean, is it gonna back up? Is it just gonna kind of, build upon itself? And again, I know that's, I'm talking about when it was raining and it's not all that common, but, and I know it's a couple times a day. I just wasn't sure if that was, part of the study or anything like that, because I know that's gonna be a question to ask.
Well, in that time of day, everyone's trying to get to high school or middle school or
Right.
somewhere else, and so minutes are crucial.
They're
And
trying to
you
get
just-
across,
Yeah.
84.
That was just, I appreciate it not starting until it's past the, I'm on that side of our school. But my concern, like Jonathan, is if it's gonna back up and stop the through traffic and make people
As
stressed.
far as the study, no, it really didn't take, a rainy day and a worst-case scenario and try to figure out what that possibility may be. There are going to be times, obviously, when it's extremely cold or it's raining, you're going to have fewer kids on buses and more moms and dads taking kids to school, so they're not standing out in the rain looking for a ride and stuff. With that said, you have an intersection at 84 just down the street. You got to stop there all the time, wait for every cycle of traffic. There's vehicles there. It's probably not going to be a whole lot different based on information you just heard. It'll clear out, or you'll move beyond Midway Drive, what would be equivalent to about a cycle length on traffic signal at US 84. And it, it's not much different other than there's just an intersection there than what there'll be at that Midway Drive. And although you do have another lane of traffic, but vehicles will move up and advance one vehicle at a time. And you've got schools all over the district that there's only one lane of traffic, and people are out there as well. Spring Valley Road, Spring Valley, I think that's getting widened right now by TxDOT. But for 30 years, 35 years, that's operated that way. Those schools right behind us, all right here, has got one lane of traffic, and when they're queued, everybody stops because there's just not hardly any room to get vehicles behind there. I'm a witness to that because I live right behind here too. So I don't know, I guess one possibility to reduce some of that, and that's way beyond probably the scope of this project, and Solomon may not, and the city may not want to hear me say this, but if you wound up adding a third southbound lane, which would be a right turn only into the development, and basically had two dual right turn lanes, you have the room to do it. A lot more money, but it would cut your queue length in half and stuff. So don't know if you want to consider that right now, but it may be something you want to keep in the back of your head.
But it's so funny that you mentioned Spring Valley, because I see Capiota is in the back there, and I know during that construction on Spring Valley, because of COVID, TxDOT actually stopped the project, and then they put it on hold for other things, but we did actually see people getting in the left turn lane to try to pass and go around, and it was,
You'll
I
see
mean,
some of that.
we literally saw what Mr. Green was describing happen on Spring Valley Road, so, yeah. Well, we don't have any bus-related issues with this, right? I mean, our bus drops off all happen in the back, and we don't expect that to affect bus access, right?
No, so I don't believe so. Our buses don't route. Ken, you're in here. Like, our buses aren't going to be affected to your knowledge. They're all coming in the back, off the back road. Yeah, they route in the back. So it's not a particular issue on the busing side.
I didn't think so, just asking.
One thing that I would mention, just as you provide connectivity, safe connectivity for pedestrians and bicycles, you may see a decrease in vehicles also, obviously not on the wet weather days probably, but in general. So it may be actual improvement with people that might be willing to get out and go walk their kid to school, or bike with their kid to school, or let their kid bike to school. And so you may see some reduction in traffic with that. And it's not a guarantee, obviously, that's all human behavior, which we can't control, but there's potential for that.
Well, thank you for sharing this with us. It's very interesting and informative.
Other questions?
And I would say thank you for continuing to engage with the district on these kinds of issues. I know that it's not this, it's actually related to a later agenda item on the SRO question. I know there's been a lot of conversation about that as well, and just anything we can do to help support each other, I think is great. So, thank you.
Thank y'all for being here. Appreciate it very much. '24 Eclipse.
You know,
Another unusual agenda item for us.
Yes.
when you're
Once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
We usually have this in January.
when you're going to school to learn how to be a superintendent, there are things they don't cover. This falls in that category. Miss Wynn, do you mind driving instead of me getting up against the clicker? Do you mind? Okay. So I'm gonna share with you some information that was shared with myself and a group of other superintendents and city leaders in December. And you can see right there, it's from the Waco-McLennan County Emergency Management. So everything I'm sharing with you, with the exception of 1 or 2 slides, and I'll point those out, is information that they provided. So this will be interesting. So if you'll go to the next slide, please, I would appreciate it. So there's a solar eclipse that's going to occur on April 8th of 2024. Most people are aware of that by now. I want to note that April 8th is a Monday. That'll be relevant for the conversation here in a moment. And what you see on this slide is a sort of large swath of the path that we expect that area of totality to take as it moves across a significant section of the United States of America and obviously parts of Mexico and Canada. All right? There is a blown up section of that. That green line represents where you would be if you wanted to have the best view of the total eclipse for the longest period of time. I would draw your attention to Waco. The other thing I will say is that part of what makes this event particularly interesting, not just for us in the Waco area, but for people who want to view the eclipse, is the proximity of the eclipse to large navigable highways. So you can get right off Highway 35 and you're in prime viewing spot. It is not unusual for an eclipse to take a path that may be more rural or away from decent sized cities. But this thing's going to cut right through a significant swath of Highway 35, which is, just keep that in the back of your mind as we continue our discussion. All right? So, how long do we expect the eclipse to last? In Waco, Texas, 4 minutes and 13 seconds. There's some other numbers. Lampasas will be 424. You know, you can read out, need to read all that chart to you. But for the purposes of discussion, let's call it 4 minutes. Now, Miss Wynn's going to pull up for you an animation that gives you an idea of what it's going to look like. I will draw your attention before she hits play to the fact that right now the eclipse is like right in the center. You see Kerrville, Fredericksburg. It's a little tough to see in the distance, but behind us you can see there's Kerrville and then there's Fredericksburg. And so if you're going to hit play, and to your left you'll see that is 1:34 and 10 seconds p.m. That's the time of day. So you might be looking at the time of day while you're watching this animation. So it's rolling north, and you can see right on the outer edge there's Waco at about 1:37, and then it'll hang out right over the top of this area, and then we will, that's good, keep going, we will start to come out of it right at 1:42-ish, and then it will continue its path sort of in a northeasterly bend. So thank you, Ms. Wynn, for that. All right, I'm going to share with you some information that was shared with me from an eclipse that occurred in 2017. What I'd like to draw your attention to is that this eclipse also occurred on a Monday. That matters. And that's the swath it covered through the United States of America. So it kind of gives us an idea of what to expect in the U.S. So here we go. Let's look at that next slide. One of the things that I want you to see is that the duration of that eclipse, and that's what makes this one particularly fascinating. So when you say once in a lifetime eclipse, this really is, y'all. Someone told me, I think in an earlier meeting, like once every 200 years or so. Where are my science teachers? Is that right, Ms. Moose? All right, exciting. So That was a 2-minute and 40-second time period of totality, and we're looking at over 4 minutes. So that's also worth kind of keeping, like for us, it's like, yeah, it's 2 minutes. For people who really get excited about this kind of thing, it's twice the bang, okay? So here we go. Newberry, South Carolina, population of 30,000 people. They held a 3-day event called Eclipse Fest. They estimated 30,000 visitors to the city. Large numbers of people were visiting from Europe. And so part of the reason they shared this with us is to let you know this is a worldwide phenomenon. This isn't just the people of Waco who are going to come out and check this out. Okay, next slide, please. Marion, Illinois, there it is on your map. And here's some information we gleaned from Marion. Population of 6,855 people. They prepared community and business prior to the event. They estimated 50,000 visitors to the city. 1,400 hotel rooms in the city, all were completely booked. Restaurants were full all day leading up to the eclipse. Farmland was used for viewing sites. Many charged, many farm owners. Parks were full. The last bullet point is what I want you to really clue in on. There was a mass exodus after the event. What normally was a 5-hour drive took 18 hours. And this is particularly concerning to me because of Midway ISD being placed where it is, 84, 6, and Highway 35, and the effect that could have. I would also have you think about the intersection between the phrase restaurants were full and Hewitt Drive. It sounds humorous, but like y'all, I think it's important that we kind of think about where our schools are located in relationship to where some of our services, our consumer services are located in our district. So that's the middle school, high school, Hewitt Elementary would be affected, Chapel Park would be affected, like all up and down that 35 corridor. Hewitt corridor, you could see some effect. All right? These are some pictures. I didn't take them, but I'm sharing them. There's more. Baker City, Oregon, same event. Population of 10,000. They spent 6 months planning for an estimated 8,000 visitors. Large parking lots were full of visitors the day prior. Spectators were sleeping in the vehicles overnight in preparation for the 2-minute and roughly 30-second event. Okay, next. Grand Island, Nebraska. Go Huskers. Population of 52,000. It was a 3-day event. They estimated 40 to 50,000 visitors. All hotels were completely full. I thought this last bullet point, because of where our Walmart's located, was particularly interesting. Well, actually, we have 2 in the district, right? So the one on Hewitt Drive and the one out there on Highway 35. Parking lot on all sides of the building were full. Increased number of shoppers leading up to the event. Think to yourself, staffing for this event, okay? Extra staff was required for several days, and they sold out of every type of portable and every type of folding chair. If you have one, you might consider putting it on sale that day, okay? Clarksville, 173,480 people. They did some pre-planning, but nothing significant. All of the restaurants were full for all 4 days. One of the things that they shared on this slide at the presentation was that about day 2, people were walking into restaurants and they were no longer being handed menus. They were simply being told what was left. Here's what we have left. And they could either take it or leave it. Many visitors came 2 to 4 days prior. All campgrounds and hotels were full. There was 3 to 4 hour traffic jam after the eclipse was over. One of the things I think I'll mention here, and I may mention it again for the point of redundancy, is because this is occurring on a Monday, there will be eclipse viewing events that will be started as early as the Thursday or Friday leading into it. I actually called the Extra Event Center and asked them if the center was available that weekend, like what was going on eclipse-wise, if they were planning an event, is what I wanted to know, because I know Baylor is. And they said no, because it's been rented out by someone who plans on using the event center and all the parking area to do their own eclipse party. I don't know who that would be, but somebody has secured the Extra Event Center for this. So that gives you an idea. So they will trickle in over 3 or 4 days. They'll trickle in on Thursday, they'll trickle in on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. When I say they, people from all over the world with all of the world's different ways of viewing things. Like they're not all going to be the good neighbors of Midway, Texas, okay? But they're all going to leave at once. They're all going to start piling out in that 2:30 to 3 range. And that's why you get these really significant traffic jams. Okay? Next slide, please.
Nothing,
yes, sir.
Nothing happens to our schools at 2:30 or 3, right? I just was curious, yeah.
There's not a traffic study for that. I'll simply say that. So, what to expect from Lieutenant County? Not my words. Okay, again, I'm just lifting this straight from emergency management. Hotels and restaurants full. What I will tell you is, and I'll show you this on a slide later, according to information I received from Baylor a couple days ago, they put out a couple weeks ago, they put out a press release. Every hotel room in Waco proper is already secured. They're already all booked up for April 8th. Visitors arriving as early as 4 days prior, every open space filled with people and open vehicles. Depending on what's going on during that time of year, there's a concern about grass fires. We've been dry now, it's been wet lately, and April's weird. Who knows, it could be snowing, it could be 100. But that was something that they discussed. Full parks, large camps established for multiple days, stress on city resources, run on grocery stores. One of the things I'm a little concerned about is how little this has actually been discussed. Like if you live here, let me just tell you, friends who are listening to me like across the dais, go to the grocery store early. I'm kind of, I mean, it's funny, it's not funny. Like, I think it's going to be pandemic level type concern with the availability of product and goods if stores aren't planning way in advance. Complete sellout of chairs and other outdoor goods, heavy traffic for several hours following the event, other unforeseen issues. And they asked this question, what are we doing to protect our residents' quality of life? Like, we need to be thinking about this. Really, each individual and each family kind of have a plan for what to do going into April 8th. Okay? There's Madras, Oregon, some more photos of kind of what we might expect. And just think about all of the undeveloped area, not like kind of in Midway in particular, but the area in general. Okay? It's a wonderful event. So this was put out by Baylor, and they are hosting an event which will bring even more people to town. They're actually collaborating with the Discovery Channel on this event. So we actually expect a fair more number of people that might otherwise have come to participate in this event. Click that next slide for me, will you? And then here's the blown up section that says, city officials expect more than 100,000 visitors to Waco for the Eclipse events on April 8th. Hotel rooms are sold out. The city will be filled with visitors, so be careful and be patient if your plans take you into the city. So that was something that was put out on Live from Waco. Okay, next slide, please. Potential issues that we need to consider. So the previous slide was mine, okay, where I was showing you what was emailed to me. This is back to the emergency management. Traffic management and transportation related issues. Parking issues, waste management, calls for service, PD and fire, urban and rural camping, fires, property crimes and civil disturbances. I'm sure everyone who comes to this event will be perfectly well behaved and at no point during the 3-day event in which they're partying do anything that might cause their judgment to be impaired. Code enforcement, hydration stations, EMS tents. There was some discussion about whether or not county ordinances need to be tweaked. That's not really so much our problem. Food supply in both grocery stores and restaurants. The community fuel supply. Overwhelmed public transportation system. Communication systems overloaded from use. Price gouging, we're better than that. Permitting, land use vendor, etc. And other types of potential issues. Okay? Next slide, please. So here's what I want to show you. We have been talking about the Eclipse at the executive level for quite some time. And prior to this meeting that I had in December, our general feeling was, let's get the kids in school, let's make this an educational moment, let's make sure that we're able to give our kids the equipment they need to look at the sun and not just stare at it through their fingers, hoping things go well. And we really wanted this to be an event that we could share with our students. After that presentation, I came back and talked to executive committee and said, I'm concerned. And I have a couple of concerns, some of them safety related. Really what was kind of the tipping point for me is because we're talking about a potential mass exodus at the exact same time that we're talking about significant traffic delays. I'm concerned about our staff getting home. I'm very concerned about our kids getting home. I'm concerned about parents getting to our kids. I'm concerned about our buses. At one point, when we were having this discussion with emergency management, they said, if you're going to try and be in school, make sure you have a plan for how to refuel buses that may run out of fuel while sitting on the road. And I felt like that might have been a little bit of hyperbole, and so I kind of half chuckled, and he said, we're not joking. These are things that have happened in other places. And so, reluctantly, what I'm discussing with the board is the idea of taking that April 15th holiday bad weather makeup date and flipping it with April the 8th so that we can put our families in positions to do what's best for their students in their homes and get them there and get them safe and get prepared for this, instead of trying to figure out how to transport students to and from without necessarily putting our transportation department in a bind if we really can't move around the roads that we need to move. We do travel Hewitt Drive quite a bit on our buses. We are on 84. To a lesser degree, we're on 6, and to a lesser degree, we're like on 340 and 35. But I have concerns. We have concerns as an executive team about how this may put significant pressure on the ability of our staff to be able to actually come in and take care of our kids to begin with. And so what we're basically putting before the board tonight is the idea of taking those 2 days and flipping them. We are blessed in that April the 15th is sitting there. It's a relatively easy switch. It will not affect instructional minutes. Like it's just a flip, and we can avoid the difficulty of the 8th. I am happy to entertain any questions you might have at this time.
I'd be interested to hear from our principals, what kind of at-home activities you could collaborate with your teachers. I mean, we know what it's like to teach our children at home. So have y'all started talking about this? Are there ways to include children in participating in the educational piece from their home, gathering in a backyard? I mean, PTA events.
Two things on that. We already have enough Eclipse classes to give every student
that was
and
my
every staff
question.
member.
Okay.
We've already ordered those.
Gotcha.
And then Dr. Odajima's already been kind of game planning for this potential contingency. So Dr., do you mind speaking to that?
Yeah, no problem. So we do have Eclipse classes for every student, every staff member in the district. They're already distributed at campuses. If we're not to use them on campus, we have a district webpage that we'll build with all the information there. And then we'll also include a note that goes with the glasses that goes home. So if they don't go to the webpage, they can have the information on how to properly use them and what not to do. And then a QR code on that page that links back to the district website. But we'll publish that, and everything that we've got that goes out to parents and students so that they know there's access there. And there's additional activities. The things that we've been to, several people have been to Baylor trainings and gone through some of the discovery education pieces that they're using through their resources. So we have that as well. So we're prepared to make a district-wide platform for them to access information that day. And we have the glasses and information to go home.
Do you have glasses for us?
We may have a few extra.
And that was what I was gonna say. I wanted to make sure all the kids got to and the staff take their glasses home so they can see it safely at home. Otherwise, I think it's the best. I think it's better to be safe than sorry and err on the side of caution. So I think it's a good idea.
So, yeah, I mean, that, you know, we had a conversation about this, obviously, and one of my concerns there, if you were to go back and look at the demand for services in the county,
Yes.
People working at restaurants, retail, public safety, other things like that, a lot of those are our families too, they're our
Yes.
parents too, right? So that one of my concerns is, wow, are there going to be families that's actually a critical day for them to be at work and not home with the 7-year-old? So you know, as opposed to the 15th, which is kind of a Monday they can plan in advance and schedule. So that would be one of my concerns, but I don't know that that's outweighed by the dramatic opportunity for traffic to be a huge problem around here.
I share that concern. And it's one of the things we talked about quite a bit in exec. We suspect this will be all hands on deck for staffing. And there's a pro and a con to that. We are very concerned about that possibility. We feel like if we communicate this early, it'll at least give families kind of some plan to think about how to deal with that challenge. On the other hand, it means that if there is a significant issue and we need people to come help us on our schools because of a potential crisis of some sort,
That's what I was
that
thinking.
everyone's going to be potentially working in other spaces and other areas, and the difficulty of them getting to us. And so it's a difficult balance that we're trying to strike with doing the best we can to put our families in position to do what they need to do to take care of themselves on the 8th. I know I'm making this sound like a biblical like plague, but they need to plan through how they want to manage this,
Yeah.
and at the same time be sensitive to the fact that we know we're going to have a significant portion of our community that needs to be and has to be at work. And so I wish I had a better thing to say about striking that balance.
No, I agree. So flip this the other direction, right? And say, yeah, if we're all in on doing this on the 8th, well, it's not just a holiday. The other thing it says is bad weather makeup day. So if we flip this to the 8th and we get another ice week in February, I mean, are we prepared to make this an actual holiday rather
Yes.
than just a makeup weather day? Is that
So
are we
we
gonna
put that day
prioritize
there.
this at the last,
Yeah.
how do we?
We put that day there for what I would describe as pretty catastrophic events. We actually have enough bank minutes where we can absorb a couple days.
Okay.
But to be very clear, there's some risk in that. Absolutely, there's some risk in that.
I mean, that's what I'm saying is should we do something different in the calendar so we could declare it an actual holiday? Or
Oh,
is it-
yes.
Is it too much of a risk to do?
No, if we flip these days, we'll say we're taking the 8th off.
Okay.
And if we end up in some sort of a bind, we might end up having to twink minutes after the fact and figure out how to get those minutes back. But that's also, that is an issue that we need to address. We're going to try and address this issue, and it's likely to be raining the entire day on the 8th, and nothing happened here.
No, they'll be here. They'll
Come
just be
from all
upset.
over the world.
You
It's
know,
gonna be cloudy.
we feel like we have to sort of be prepared for whatever happens.
Well, depending on the decision that's made, again, I go back to our campus principals and your staff, your families, your PTA. This is gonna go better or not depending on the kind of communication that happens at the family level, and that's happening with your families. So whatever we do, I think all of this information, I'm assuming, is gonna get out to our families, so they are as informed as we are about what to expect and maybe how to help each other out. What can I do if you've got to take a shift all day?
Right.
I don't know, like you said, the neighborliness, can we not come together in once in a incredible lifetime opportunity
Once in a
to
blue
help
moon.
each other?
Once
Yeah.
in a solar
Yeah,
eclipse.
once in a solar
Once in a
eclipse.
solar eclipse.
Yes, ma'am. Well, obviously, first step was to visit with the board tonight, and then start pushing out information so families can prepare for what might be coming.
So do you ultimately view this as a board action item?
We would certainly want to, like, this is what I'm here to visit with y'all tonight, so we can get it on consent at the next most available time, but I wanted there to be plenty of time for this to be processed. There's nothing to stop us from starting to communicate on this as a potential issue now, so people start planning, but we would need action at some point, yes, sir.
Okay, that's
I
what I
think the
thought. I
sooner
just
the
wanted to
better.
be clear,
Yeah.
because it's not on the agenda for action tonight.
Typically, I
Right.
like us to be able to talk about these things a little bit, if we can, and we're gonna get together again in February, and we'd probably put it on that pretty quickly, honestly, and we can start talking about it sooner than that even, you know.
And obviously, the other thing I'd emailed you was if we're gonna do this, we probably want to adjust the non-business days, since April 15th is listed as a non-business day.
For sure. Yes, sir.
Which is on the agenda for tonight. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good detail,
Hey, occasionally I read ahead.
Other questions on this item, folks? Comments or discussion? All right.
Just glad we're not in the dark.
We're not in the dark.
You're waiting to say that. You're hoping.
He's been sitting on that all night.
We need to get a soundtrack so we could play that at the appropriate time. Both good and bad things come in threes. So the third unusual agenda item, how often do we talk about creating a police force potentially? We're going to do that tonight. Aaron.
Lots of exciting things. Here's a clip. Thank you. All right, well, thank you. Good evening, members of the board, President Russick, Dr. Allen. As you know, we really never arrive when it comes to school safety. We're always striving to get better, to make improvements, enhancements, and this proposal is part of that effort. And so I do want to just preview kind of where we're going with this presentation. I'm going to start out by going over kind of where we are currently with our SRO setup and our safety specialists as well. And then we'll talk a little bit about why we're here, why we're proposing potentially starting our own police force. We'll go over some of the cost estimates associated with starting our own police force, and then we've anticipated, because although this isn't really new for a lot of the school districts in our area, it is definitely new for us, and so you probably have questions, and we've anticipated what some of those might be. So we've got an FAQ at the end of the presentation, and we'll definitely give opportunity to answer other questions as well. So as a review, currently the Hewitt Police Department furnishes Midway with 3 SROs, 1 at the Midway High School, 1 at our Midway Middle School, and then 1 rotates through 4 of our campuses throughout the week. And we have the same with Woodway, the Woodway Public Safety Department. Again, 1 of those officers is stationed at Midway High School, 1 at River Valley Middle School, and then 1 rotates through the other 4 campuses on the other side of the district. We also have additional security. We have 6 campus safety specialists, and I want to just pause for a minute. I'm going to introduce those folks, but if you remember, House Bill 3 threw districts kind of for a loop when it first came out, and many districts were scrounging. And here at Midway, we decided to take those lemons and make some pretty nice tasting lemonade. And we've gotten so many compliments with this initiative, and from not only staff members, principals, and we have some principals just fighting over these campus safety specialists, but also community members as well. And so I want to introduce them because many of you may have not met each of them. So just stand up and give us a wave. Kelly Painter serves Spring Valley Elementary. See? They love them. Victor Kirkendall is at Chapel Park Elementary. Jeff Cadell is at Spiegelville Elementary. Robert Morgan, or Bob, as they affectionately call him. And Bob actually serves 2 campuses, Woodway, and he rotates to South Bosque as well. And we also have Jose Mireles at Park Hill Elementary. And Gabriel Aguilar. And Gabe is also one of our safety specialists who serves 2 campuses, Hewitt Elementary and also Castleman Creek Elementary. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight. And we want to just go over briefly why we're here. We do have some challenges that we're presented with, or will be presented with for next school year. Woodway Police Department, or Woodway Public Safety, has let us know that they will no longer be able to supply an SRO for Midway High School starting in August of 2024. And there's several reasons, primarily staffing, call volumes, and jurisdictional issues that they're dealing with. And so that has, once again, given us another challenge. But as you know, here at Midway, we take those, what might be a problem, and we call it a problemtunity. And it just gives us an opportunity to just make something even better. Yeah, I made that word up, in case you were wondering. Along with that challenge is we still have the law that was passed during the 88th legislative session that requires every campus to have an armed police officer. Now, we are able to have some flexibility, and since we can't furnish a police officer on every campus, we have taken the guardian route, and these are the gentlemen I introduced you to, and that is a 2-pronged approach that we're taking, because we also have other guardians that we will be ready to deploy if necessary into the future. But we have these challenges, and so what we have decided is that we can take this and enhance our safety and security measures here at Midway ISD. The local police departments are finding it challenging to meet the specific needs, and I really needed to reword that bullet because we have very specific needs in the district, and sometimes and those requirements and expectations are pretty tough for our police departments and our SROs to meet. For example, the hours that we have students on campus sometimes don't fit nicely within that 40-hour work week. When do we offer SROs overtime pay? There's all kinds of requirements that we have that are very specific to a school district that just make it challenging for our partner police departments. Also considering our size and our growing size, our environment with many schools and many municipalities that we cover, as well as meeting the legislative requirements that I talked about. Having district police officers on our campuses, I believe, is a proactive aim at implementing our safety standards and just helping us to be better and more equipped to meet our specific needs. So what this would look like would be, we would have a police chief, and the police chief would be over 4 police officers. These people would be stationed 2 at the Midway High School and then 1 at each of our middle schools. We would also have additional safety specialists to make sure that we have 1 at each of our 8 elementary campuses so that we don't have someone moving back and forth depending on the day. That is kind of a tough schedule to keep, and we would want those people to really be invested fully in their campus and be part of that team. So currently our program is for our SROs, it costs us a little over $500,000 per year. And it kind of fluctuates depending on the actual officers we have, their experience level, and what they're being paid at from their police departments. And our campus safety specialists are costing us about $378,000. We do believe, as if we move forward with this plan, that we could actually maybe experience a little bit of savings that could help us to sustain the program. Our MISD police officers, if we go this route, we believe we can have that cost about $300,000. And then, of course, with the additional campus safety specialist, that would put us at about $500,000. So there's a potential for about, again, these are estimates, but about $90,000. And again, we could always find ways to put that money back into other safety measures as well. So a potential timeline would be, so here at this meeting in January, possibly adopting the resolution that would allow us the authority to move forward with our plan. And then in February, we would bring the revised CKE local policy, which is part of the board packet tonight for your review. The approval of the minutes would be another requirement for the meeting that approved the resolution. So we could do that later in February as well. And we would also bring some administrative guidelines for you to review by then. And then after that, we would work with TCOL and go through the administration, or our administration would go through the process of completing our application. What we would like to do is take the semester to open up the positions and really vet potential candidates to make sure that eventually we have the very best police officers for Midway ISD who would start no later than August 1st and be ready to receive students by the time the school year begins. So some of the questions that might be out there are school district police officers real police officers? The answer is absolutely yes. School district police officers enforce the laws just like any other police officer. Can school district police make arrests off campus? Again, the answer is yes. They have statewide authority to make arrests. What is the jurisdiction of the school district police department? So the jurisdiction would be all property owned by the school district, as well as obviously, school buses, but also any agreement that we would enter in with any other entities. If we would have MOUs with other entities, then the SROs are actually our police officers. I'm going to have to change the SRO from my vocabulary, would have jurisdiction as well. Can school district police officers issue traffic citations? And yes, they can give tickets. They can help monitor our school zones, both on and off our school property. Will our officers be obligated to respond to police emergencies in the community? No, they will not be obligated to respond. Their first priority will be to the safety of our students and our staff in our buildings, but they would have the authority to respond if necessary. And what is the contract length for a school district police officer? What we are looking at right now would be a 217 contract year for police officers. This would be in line with what we have with our campus safety specialists, and that would give us the ability to have the person have some time off during the summer, but we can also have some staggered times for the different police officers so that we can make sure that our summer schools are covered, our athletic events are covered, and just have enough safety specialists and police officers available throughout the summer.
And just quickly on that
Yes,
point, Dr. Pena, currently, we don't have SROs in the summer at all.
Currently, we do not have SROs throughout the summer.
So this would actually expand our service to give us SROs while we have all the events that we have going on during the summer. Like think about all the sports camps, think about summer school, those types of events and things where we could continue to have coverage from licensed peace officers.
Yes, sir. Currently, we contract for summer events and different things like that when they're not on duty with us. So this would eliminate that. And then what retirement plan? Somebody asked this, so I thought I'd put it up there, and they would be on the teacher retirement, the TRS, just like all professionals here in the district and teachers. And with that, thank you for your consideration. Are there any other questions?
What kind of startup costs do you think we're going to have through the program? Like cars, other equipment that we need?
We've been very fortunate that both police chiefs who partner with us currently, Chief Khalil as well as Chief McGrath, they've been very giving, and they are wanting to help us in this endeavor. And Chief Khalil has even told us that we could use some of their police cars for a very, very affordable price. And so we can get off started very well. We also have some of the equipment that would be necessary already that we're purchasing. If you remember one of the last times that we spoke, we were talking about, rifles, safety vests. So we have a lot of the equipment. One of the pieces that really surprised me that's very expensive are the police radios. So that's going to be kind of pricey. We can't just go out and buy $200 or $300 radios. They're pretty expensive. But we do want to make sure that they have the best equipment and everything that they need. So there will be some things that we already are ready to go with, but then there are going to be some additional costs, startup costs, yes, sir. And we're still exploring that.
Aaron, aside from the officers, what's going to be the impact of like a dispatch or kind of a central location that will coordinate?
So we would enter into agreement with Hewitt, so they would handle our dispatch, and John McGrath has already agreed to do that, and so that would be again a conversation we would continue. If you give us the authority to move forward, that would not be a challenge for us. And if there are any questions that I can't answer, I have Officer Foley here to help me out.
I actually have a question related to Mr. Foley, which is one of the costs I didn't see listed was actually the cost of a police chief. My assumption is we probably have that person on our staff already. It's a little more responsibility than he sort of has right now. So I'm assuming that we would be making sure we keep that person around from a cost standpoint.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying not to gloss over this, but I want to make sure we account for paying that person as well.
Absolutely. That's something that Dr. Allen and I have talked about, and your concerns are our concerns as well, and we've got some ideas.
So in case of an emergency, which God forbid we have one, how would that now work with having our own police force? Because now we have people come in, from Hewitt and Woodway and maybe Waco, and then our people on campus would stay there. But I don't know if we'd want to draw our police officers from other campuses, because they may need to be, still taken care of to go to wherever the threat is. So how is that going to happen? Have y'all talked about that yet? The course, chain of command will change a little bit, but then how will we get help? How's that gonna help? So I don't feel like our other campuses may be compromised in the case of a threat.
Sure. Do you want to take that one?
Sure. In that situation, if a emergency would happen on a campus, if it was a secondary campus, the officer is already there. The rest of our staff and our police officers will maintain their campus. A couple years ago, we had what we call a swatting call, where somebody called in an active shooter at the high school that was not ever at any point there.
Right.
Within a matter of minutes, we had 65 police officers from across the country.
65?
So we're still, we'll call in the
Yes.
outside sources.
Yes.
Okay,
There
that's
will
what
be-
I was wanting to
there will be
clarify.
A joint unified command system of Midway's chief of police along with the responding agencies command that we would work together to make sure the incident is taken care of eventually.
So very much like it is now, it just, your chain, we'd have a different person, the chain of command would be a little different. Okay, I just wanted to be sure that I was clear on that, how it would work. So-
There's two things I want to note, and one is, in the communication that we were sent from the city of Woodway telling us that they would no longer be able to provide SROs, they reaffirmed their commitment to come, I think they called it with all due vigor, in the event of any emergency. It's not that they're not committed to the safety of our students. It's that they are at a point where trying to do that while meeting city needs is becoming less tenable. It's also worth noting that what we currently have is 2 SROs at the high school and 1 in each middle school. This is not really a change of what we have, it's a change of who's responsible.
Right.
And then finally, both police chiefs, when I say both, City of Woodway, City of Hewitt, have both said that should we go this direction, that they look forward to the opportunity to cross-train with our officers so that in the event that there is the worst situation, there's a high level of familiarity with practices, procedures, protocols in how to respond in the event of an emergency.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure we weren't trying to use our own force in that situation, so that's good.
Hey, so I'm reading through the policy that's in front of us that I think that would be on next meeting's agenda to approve,
Yes, sir.
right? This is just
Potentially.
the resolution potentially. So I want to just get your reactions and discussion real quick about, it says that the police officers won't be called on for sort of routine discipline, things like that in classrooms. So I'm kind of asking the question 2 ways here, which is, I think that's good, obviously. We want their focus to primarily be safety and not necessarily, dealing with discipline issues. On the other hand, I know that discipline is an issue in a lot of places in our district. So what, are we supplementing this with other efforts to address discipline things that don't require necessarily an armed individual to be there? Because the other concern there is if someone who's armed is in the middle of a discipline issue, then it could potentially compromise that weapon. So how are we addressing discipline issues then if this is not intended to do that? Is that a good way to ask that?
So that language is in that policy to make it clear that our officers aren't going to get onto a kid for being tardy, right? If we have a significant fight, they will be involved.
Okay.
Because you have the potential of that escalating into something that, like, anytime you have threat to property or people, that an officer can get and would get involved in that. That's the case now. The other thing I would tell you is one of the areas in which we think that this might actually enhance our ability to maintain discipline is there are things that officers can do but that our current officers don't do, because one of the differences that occurs is that although our TCOL Midway police officers would have to follow all the same laws that you would see from a regular officer, there are internal office expectations that occur at the city level that we would think of differently. So, for example, if we wanted our officers to help us do hall sweeps and bathroom sweeps to reduce the number of vapes that are taking place at the high school, they would do that. Whereas right now, that's not the standard practice. And so they would actually help us expand into some areas where they can help be an extra set of eyes in ways that we're not currently seeing.
So it can help us in other ways beyond
Yes, sir.
what you traditionally think of for safety then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, thank you.
Other questions, comments, discussion?
And I'm sorry to ask another one too, but is it safe to say if we move forward with the resolution tonight, you guys start down this road, you hit some kind of red flags or roadblocks, you can come to us in February and we can put the brakes on and try to find another solution?
Absolutely.
Because in other words, this is not an all or nothing thing tonight. This is a step.
The resolution tonight is the first of many steps.
Okay.
Many steps requiring board approval, I might add. And so what the resolution does is basically authorize the district to start the process. We have to have the authorization and the minutes approved before we can even begin filling out the application with TCOL. And we have to adopt the policy, we have to adopt the MOU with City of Hewitt. All of those would require some board approval and that type of deal. And so authorizing is not the same as obligating. And so if there's plenty of opportunities, should we run into snags, to come back and take another look at it.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Just continue to offer my thanks for Officer Foley for countless, many years of service and stepping up at for such a time as this. I hope you know how much we appreciate you. And all of you gentlemen.
And the
as
6 of you as well.
I love seeing Kelly
Yeah.
Painter back. We've missed you. But thankful to all of you guys.
All right, so this is not an action item here, but we do have, as just was noted, the opportunity for the board to adopt the resolution and at least position the district to further explore this and have other decision points down the road. So, with no further ado then, and if no further discussion on that one, we'll go to the consent agenda. We have minutes from our regular meeting and our special called meeting, a lengthy update 122, mostly legal, but a few local for us to adopt. New course approval for the Midway Middle School, calling the trustee election for places 3 and 4. What may be a record number of early graduation requests, including one I thought I recognized a name on. Budget amendments, resolution for our non-business days that Colin referenced. I would assume we'd go ahead and adopt that, and if we need to change it later on, we could always come back and do that.
Yes, sir.
And then our resolution authorizing the creation, but not obligating the creation of the police department. Any board member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Alford,
Second.
second by Ms. Vick. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Consideration of personnel.
You have an updated addendum at your place, and no professional contracts to consider.
Very good. We have a couple of agenda items with regard to the board considering abandonment of contract and potentially notifying TEA about that contract abandonment. I talked with Dr. Allen before the meeting started about just taking those two items up in open session. If the board wants to go in closed session on those, we can. I'm fine with taking them up in open session.
You're fine with it, I'm fine with it.
So, Dr. Allen.
As a reminder, it requires two motions because the board would consider two different things. One, finding that the employee, in this case Mira Hodges, abandoned her contract without good cause. And then the second motion would authorize the superintendent to send a letter to the agency seeking sanctions. You have motion language in front of you because it's technical and legal. And is it everybody's place or just mine?
Just yours.
Just
Okay.
yours.
Well, I have two versions of it. I'll do this with it and y'all can pass it whichever direction you want. But anyone who chooses to make those motions, we have language there for you should you want to make a motion to that effect.
As we're in open session and not closed session, are you able to share with us any information about this case, or is that a closed session conversation that we would have?
He can tell us about it right here.
Teacher abandoned contract, told us she was leaving the classroom to take a job doing something in the private sector, reminded her of a contractual obligation. She told us she knew what was at stake, wasn't coming back to work. It's almost that cut and dry. Ashley, would you add anything to it?
And let's just be clear about this, folks. I'm purposely taking this up in open unless y'all want to go into close, because I think it's important for our folks to start hearing about this sort of thing. And if people are going to do this, then they need to have their name out there as having done it. That's my view.
I would agree.
Well, it's cut and dried. I mean, she's not here anymore. I mean, there's nothing.
The contract has been abandoned.
So how many students then are affected by this pretty dramatic change to a
170?
science teacher in the middle of a semester?
Around 170 students.
Wow.
And on that note, I would like to just express a word of appreciation to Ms. Smith and leadership in that science department for figuring it out. We're taking care of the kids, but the strain it has put on some individual employees is noteworthy.
And when did this happen again, Chris?
What was the exact date?
Final day to work was December 21st.
And y'all know, we talked at length the first time this came up a couple of months ago.
Right.
And the administration heard loud and clear, and was already there, that this is not a item that shows up on an agenda for this board lightly. All due consideration has been given, and this is where we are.
I can't recall ever seeing it since I've been on.
Yeah. It's a different day and time in a lot of regards, folks. With that said, unless there's other questions or discussion,
170 students,
I move that we issue a finding in accordance with Texas Education Code Section 21.210, little c, little 2 in parentheses, and 19 Texas Administrative Code Section 249.14, little j in parentheses, that good cause did not exist for Mayor Hodges to abandon her employment contract with Midway ISD, and her actions have failed to comply with the Texas Education Code provisions regarding resignations. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Witt. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
I move that we authorize the superintendent to send a letter to the Texas Education Agency seeking sanctions against Mira Hodges, educator certification for abandonment of her teacher contract with Midway ISD.
Motion by Mr. Green. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Watts. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion also carries unanimously. Thank you all. We are going to go into closed session to let the superintendent update us on the head football coach status. Other than that, I think we're out of agenda items, except for superintendent's communications, which we'll hear now.
I will tell you that what I want to share tonight more than anything is my appreciation for our school board. And I know I covered that thoroughly, but I kind of want to end where we started with one caveat, and that is this. I hope that everyone had an opportunity to go see Midway High School's production of Les Mis. Which, if you went and saw it, you were probably as impressed with as I was. What you probably know is that we had two casts. That is not typical. It is the high school and fine arts department's way of making sure we keep as many students as involved as possible. The other part you may not know is that the orchestral music was played by our students, and we had 4 different orchestras, 2 casts and 4 orchestras. So how do you make a school of 2,600 feel like it's been designed by the one? You create as many opportunities for as many kids to be involved as you possibly can. The easy path is to get one orchestra together and one cast and go do 4 performances. The harder path is to do that same work with somewhere between twice and 4 times as many students. It's a testament to Darrell Umhofer, it's a testament to Pam Hyatt, it's a testament to Jill Wilkinson, Wellbaum, no one calls him by his first name, they just call him Wellbaum, and our art department, everybody, the entire fine arts department pulls together to make this happen. Yeah, we can sit here and name lots of names, and it is astonishing, and I was blessed to be there on the night. Oh, Darryl, you're still back there. I thought you left. There he is. I was blessed to be there on the night that our #1 in the state French horn player was in the pit. And I'm glad Daryl's still there because none of this happens without his leadership. The way he pulls all this together, 3,800 tickets sold. And at one point, and Daryl, correct me if I'm wrong, and I mean that very sincerely, we were projecting a deficit of maybe 15 to 20 grand. It's looking like it's going to come in far less than that, like maybe the 6 to 4 range. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, we'll have real numbers here in a few weeks.
And that just speaks to the financial efficiency of Daryl, but also the community shows up. The narrative that people don't believe in public schools is a lie. People show up when our kids do great things, and we're blessed in that they do great things every day. Why? Largely because of great leadership from the top. Not every school district has a board that invests in fine arts the way this one does. You guys make it happen from the top down. And so it's a connection from the students to the professionals to our board that makes special moments like that happen.
Great things are happening in Texas public schools.
Yep.
If anybody watches the Kelly Clarkson show, they featured the youngest mariachi singer in the world, and he is a student of Northside ISD in San Antonio in the district, represented by one of my El Tasby colleagues. And I learned today that we have 120 schools at least as of now with mariachi programs. So I don't want to take anything away from what's happening here, but I just want it clear that the level of excellence is not limited
fantastic.
to Waco, Texas and Midway ISD. There's cool stuff going on.
Indeed. All right. So 551.074 at 8:40, we're going to go in closed session. I don't anticipate we'll be taking any action or having any comment to make when we come back. So y'all want to stay, you can, but I think we'll just come back and adjourn.
It almost sounded like you were doing the prisoner, Jean Valjean, into that number. After talking about Les Mis,
Just amazing.
I was so upset I was out of town, and it was just one weekend. You know, a lot of times we do it over 2 weekends. We didn't do it over 2 weekends this year. Which is fine.
No, I dropped it.
I gave you so much.
This thing is very, very slick on the inside.
A musical, complicated adult themes like Les Mis with extraordinary taste. They did the school version of it. I don't know that exactly. Yeah. Oh, they cleaned it way up. But then even with that version, Daryl tinkered with some stuff just because.
We try not to hide.
Yeah.
Realities of life, yes, but yeah. No, he went the other way, which he doesn't usually go. He doesn't